Coming up on the Alabama Football Report, the latest on the JC Latham injury. What's going on there? He's in a boot. Some players to watch in a pivotal matchup against LSU, and the path for Alabama to make it to the college football playoff. Speaking of, do you think, and more importantly, do you want Alabama to make it to the college football playoff? If that is you, it should be every single person watching. Then like today's video for us right now. Let's begin with the JC Latham injury. He showed up to Tuesday's press conference wearing a boot on his foot. That's a red flag because it's an lineman, it's a boot, it's a foot, it's your best offensive lineman in your biggest game of the year so far. Sounds like he's going to be fine. Now, there are no injury reports in college football. I really wish we had them. I think it'd be for the betterment of the sport, by the way, for just knowledge of what the hell is going on sometimes. Coaches won't do it because they love to misdirect and disguise. It's the exact reason why the whole Michigan thing was allowed to happen and why they don't have headsets or mics under the helmets, because they want to be able to steal the signs. They want to be able to hide their players' injuries. That Latham, though, went to his press conference, I think is a sign he'll be able to play. Here's what he said, by the way. It felt pretty good. I mean, stuff happens. You're out there, you feel me, you get banged up. It's no big deal. I will be ready to play when the game comes. Let's talk more about the game here, including some players to watch. First up is Kendrick Law. That is the wide receiver who has shown some flashes in small sample size, as many of these receivers have done so far this year. Flashes, moments, the 34-yard big play machine. He's from Shreveport, Louisiana, by the way. Feels like that's worth mentioning. Coming up against LSU at this stage. Here's what Jalen Milroe, the quarterback, said about the young wide receiver. Kendrick Law has great practice habits. Feels like Nick Saban just kind of spit in Jalen Milroe's mouth and had the voice come out of him, you know. We all said as an offense how well he practices. That allows him to be more effective in the game plan for every week. He's a great player. Practices very hard, great mindset. He's also a team player. I think Kendrick made great strides throughout the weeks, and he's going to be a key resource for us moving forward. Now, what's very interesting to me is we don't get very many photos that are put out from the practice stuff and whatnot. This one's noteworthy. It's Jalen Milroe in the shotgun. Do you see who's to the left of him? That's Kendrick Law. And Kendrick Law has shown he is a playmaker. He has shown he offers return value. One creative way to get the ball in your playmaker's hands is to put him in the backfield. What if instead of, I call it an angle route, some people call it a text route, it's when the guy in the backfield goes to the right side or the left side of the offensive line and then cuts it back upfield. I love that route. Linebackers can't cover it, especially at the college level. Why not do an angle route to Kendrick Law? Maybe in the red zone? I think that would work really well. You can do some screen stuff to him. So we are gleaning a lot into that, but I would keep an eye on what the Bama plan is for Kendrick Law moving forward. What do you think? Should Bama use Kendrick Law even more? Y for yes, N for no. It'll be today's pinned comment, so go vote in the comments section, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. You can tell producer Chris builds our Alabama shows. It's Amari Niblack, who, producer, you were right. I'll give you credit. You're right. I forget what the over-under was on touchdowns that you assigned, 6.5. We're in the range of 6.5 TDs this year. He's got 3 on only 12 catches this season, 218 yards. That's a ridiculous 18.2 yards per catch. Niblack brings, one of the things that not everybody does on this Alabama football roster. There's some guys with size. Jermaine Burton is technically only 6 foot, but he plays bigger, you know? But Amari Niblack does offer you some significant size at the position. Listed program weight, 6'4", 233. LSU's had some struggles this year against bigger wide receivers. Keon Coleman, who, look, he's going to be a first-round pick. The dude's a star. 9 catches, 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. Johnny Wilson, who's 6'7", and that's hilarious to me. 7 for 104 back in the FSU Week 1 win. Luke Haas at Arkansas, 6 catches, 116 yards, 2 TDs. Trey Harris, 8 receptions, 153, and a score. Do you notice the trend? Big receivers can have success. Now, today's show was made possible by Prize Picks. That is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports out there. We've told you about them before. We're not going to stop because we love what Prize Picks offers. I'm a big fan of, it's a newer feature for them. Or implemented this year, I should say, the reboot feature. If you lose a player in a football or basketball game who gets hurt in the first half, players rebooted, and your entries will stay in play despite the injury. Prize Picks is the only DFS platform, that's Daily Fantasy Sports, that offers injury insurance, which I think is a fantastic touch. My picks this week in the NFL, we'll get to college football once we have them. Maybe tomorrow. They're always a little bit later because, again, no injury reports. Joe Burrow, more than passing yards. Isaiah Pacheco, more than rushing yards. CeeDee Lamb, more than receiving yards. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link's going to be in the comments and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Next player to watch is Caleb Downs, the safety. This LSU offense is insanely dynamic. They will make massive plays consistently. You need your safety, your best young safety, your best safety, period. They're all young, and he's a true freshman after all, to make some big-time splash plays. He's got 49 tackles this year, has gotten beat some in coverage. It happens. He's a freshman. That's mostly to be expected. But the majority of the times that Caleb Downs has been beaten this year was against Texas. It's when Quinn Ewers, one of the few times in his career at Texas, had deep ball success. You can't allow those giant, humongous, massive chunk plays. Outside of the Texas game, I think Caleb Downs, kind of quietly for a true freshman, has been great this season. I need great play against LSU. I like seeing a freshman not being scared. I know he's a 5-star or whatever, but being able to stand there and make some tackles. There will be moments where Jaden Daniels will be reckless with the football. Can you capitalize on it? LSU, biggest game of his life, which we'll say probably a few times over the course of the next few seasons for Caleb Downs. That's how it works. That's fine. Is a massive test, both physically, mentally, and maturity-wise. Don't get yourself down if you allow a big play. LSU will make plays. They've got guys. It's going to happen. Don't melt down. So it's for the fan base too. Respond and step up. So what is your confidence level in Caleb Downs? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. Before we go, the final college football playoff rankings, our first college football playoff rankings are out. OSU, Georgia, Michigan, FSU, Washington, your undefeated teams. I'm kind of surprised at that, by the way, because Huskies had the best win over Oregon, and they're still 5. And it's not like Michigan's played anybody. That's kind of interesting to me. Florida State beat LSU. Georgia beat, okay. I mean, Florida was a nice win, and it's just kind of weird. Anyway, Oregon 6, Texas 7, Bama 8, Oklahoma 9, Ole Miss 10. Bama's got the win over number 10. It's a big deal. Our plan, assuming Bama wins this week, is to be live for the next batch of college football playoff rankings. So make sure you are subscribed, youtube.com/@RollTideTV. Nick Saban had this to say as he continues to be upset about it, which they deserve to not be in. I'm sorry, guys. They shouldn't have made it. I'm sorry. Nick said, I know producer Chris probably disagrees, but that's my thoughts. I felt like last year, I've said this publicly before, we were probably one of the best 4 teams in the country, and because we lost 2 plays in the last play of the game, we never got in the playoffs. I think they should put more emphasis on strength of schedule. I think when we go to 12 teams, you definitely get all the best teams in, but right now, it can be hit or miss. I don't really care much about the rankings right now. And he is right to not care right now. Fully agree, because it's all going to change. Here is the road to the playoffs for Alabama. Number 1, if they went out and beat Georgia, they're getting in. Outside of some wacky scenario where, I don't know, there's an injury to Milroy, they're going to get in. It's going to happen. 1 win SEC championship team gets in. If they lose to Georgia, or even lose to Auburn and then beat Georgia, they're going to need some help. Number 1, you need to get Texas out of there. Because if you're matched up against Texas, head-to-head results, they're not going to go your way. I'm looking at Kansas State, number 23, as a chance for a game for them to lose. TCU's bad. Iowa State's not that great. Tech is bad. Might be another Texas-Oklahoma Big 12 championship game. So you would like to see a Texas loss in there. In the Pac-12, just get Oregon out of the way. Not that challenging. USC, Oregon State stand out there. Get them out of the way and avoid a weird 2 Pac-12 teams getting in, whatever. Number 4, you need at least one Washington loss. Here's the thing about that. Their schedule's tough. At USC, I might pick USC in that one. Utah, Oregon State, and a not terrible Washington State team, and a good Pac-12. Pac-12 is actually like kind of low-key good this year. Then the Pac-12, of course, championship game. And again, if you lose, one of Ohio State and or Michigan to collapse. Don't let 2 Big Ten teams sneak their way in. I will make note, of course, OSU and Michigan still must play each other in the big game, or whatever it is, the game, in November. Michigan also must still play number 11 Penn State. Who knows if they're good or not? We saw them play against OSU, and they didn't move the ball very well. So don't count on Michigan versus Ohio State just being the game to eliminate one of those teams. You'd like to get one of them out of there. Remember, OSU made it in 2022 despite losing by 22, because sometimes college football is wacky when there's only 4 teams, and there will be some obvious contenders eliminated, so we'll see what happens. I think this might be a big upset week in college football. We shall see. I think Bama's fine being at number 8, ahead of Oregon, or behind Oregon and Texas. I think that's fair. Where would you rank them? Sound off in the comments section.